Okay, welcome everyone. I'll call our meeting to order. So begin with our land acknowledgement. Acknowledge that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaty signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. We'd also like to recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched this part of Mi'kma'ki, known as Nova Scotia, for over 400 years. Thank you. So next, the approval of the minutes from January 26th. Someone would like to move by Councillor Hinch, second by Councillor White. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none. Question has been called. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Minutes are done. Approval of the order of business additions and deletions. Ms. Clerk.
Chair Austin, there are no additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
Thank you. Anything from members of council? Seeing none, would someone like to move the order of business? Moved by Councillor Cleary, second by Councillor Kent. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That carries. Business arising out of the minutes, there are none. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare tonight? Seeing none. Motions of reconsideration, there are none. Motions of rescission, there are none. We have no deferred business. Notice of tabled matters, there are none, which brings us to our public hearing. And since both of these are in my district tonight, I'm going to pass the chairmanship over to Councillor Kent, the vice chair.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, should I sit there?
Yes, you should. You got to be at the head.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We are, Councillor, there for you to look at. So we're at 10.1 public hearings. 10.1.1 is the planning application 2025-01427 land use bylaw amendment for the rezoning of 13 Pinewood Drive. Now, thank you for joining us here this evening for this public hearing. The process will start with a staff presentation and then questions of clarification from the committee members, followed by the public hearing opening and an opportunity for the applicant to present. And after that, we will go to speakers from the gallery, if there are any, and I believe we have some who have signed up. And now, Madam Clerk, can you confirm if there's been any further correspondence?
There has been correspondence received for this, and the submission deadline was 3 p.m.
Okay. All right. And that's all been circulated, anything that came in?
That is
today?
correct.
Yes, thank you. All right. So now we have Craig Warnell from Halifax Planning, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, Community Council. My name is Craig Warnell. I'm a planner too with the Urban Enabled Applications Group at HRM's Planning and Development. This is a public hearing presentation for Planning Application 2025-01427, which is a rezoning application for 13 Pinewood Drive. So tonight, our applicant is 360 CAD Services. They're looking to rezone a vacant lot at 13 Pinewood Drive. From the existing residential 3 zone to the cluster housing zone. For a bit of neighborhood context, our photo on the left shows the site located at the north end of Dartmouth between Rise Road and the CN rail line and the corner of Pinewood Drive. The photo on the right shows the vacant lot in relation to the abutting properties. This is a large vacant urban lot. We're at approximately 1,700 square meters or 18,000 square feet in area. And we have approximately 25 feet of frontage along Pinewood Drive. So for some additional context, on the left, you can see that general site location highlighted in red. On the right is the access from Windmill Road, where the surrounding area includes sidewalks, transit stops, and small-scale commercial grocer. The photo at the bottom shows the site in relation to Pinewood Drive, which is a two-way street with 2 access points. One is connected at Windmill Road to Pinewood. and the other extends to Levitt Street before meeting Windmill Road once more. Taking the time to provide some additional context and additional photos for the site itself. So taking a closer look here. As previously stated, again, the lot's vacant, approximately 1,700 square feet, 18,000 square feet in the area. And this photo is taken on site looking southwest. We have another view here looking northeast and another view looking northwest. So tonight, council is being asked to consider rezoning from the existing residential 3 zone to that cluster housing zone under the regional center land use bylaw. The change would allow the applicant to develop as of right a cluster housing project. That CH1 zone allows, in this case, up to 4 residential buildings on a single property without the need for a new public street. So should council approve that rezoning, additional buildings could be constructed on site with up to 6 units per building for a total of 24 units provided all those requirements of the CH1 zone are met. So as part of the application, the applicant has submitted one early concept of what development might look like on site pursuant to that CH1 zone. Please note that this site plan and layout was provided only as an example of what the cluster housing development may look like, and at this time and at this address. Here the site plan is showing 4 3-story buildings, each containing 6 dwelling units, with a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom options to support a variety of households. Walkways will connect the site to Pinewood Drive, ensuring pedestrian access throughout. And the development also provides 12 surface vehicle parking spaces. Landscaping would be provided around the perimeter of the lot. This would help to buffer the development from surrounding properties. And exterior amenity space is planned at the rear of the site to offer shared outdoor space for residents. That being said, again, I want to address this one more time. Tonight's application does not provide approval or building permits for any of these dwellings on site or any of these buildings on site. Rather, we're just looking to approve that rezoning to CH1 from the existing residential. Touching base on a bit of our planning and policy overview, these 3 documents we use on a daily basis. Our regional plan and subdivision land use bylaws generally guide where population growth in services and investment occur. At more of a community level, our community plans and our municipal planning strategies outline the where, the how, and the what types of development may occur. Some uses may only be allowed after community consultation and council approval. And at that lot fine-grained detail, we have our land use bylaws. These, again, are specific to each individual lot in HRM, and they specify what can be approved without going to council and seeking feedback from our public. So tonight, we're at the hearing stage of the application. This means that we have since put this application out for a comprehensive staff review. We've completed our public engagement requirements. We've heard a first reading and are now sitting for a public hearing. After tonight's decision, there's going to be a 14-day appeal period. So a bit of our planning overview for the site. The property is serviced by municipal water and sewer. We're zoned ER3. We're designated established residential. Our site is currently vacant, and the proposal is being considered under enabling policies E4 and IM5 within the Regional Center Municipal Planning Strategy. Touching base on policy E4, this allows council to consider the rezoning requests within that established residential designation to that CH1 zone. In doing so, council needs to consider criteria such as neighborhood connectivity, efficient land use, and compliance with the land use bylaw requirements. There's one particular point that I want to bring up tonight, just a bit of clarification. If you guys will have noticed that in the policy matrix attached is attachment B, specifically policy E1E. You may notice that the policy language refers to a limit of 4 units per cluster housing block. In 2024, when our housing accelerator fundamentals were adopted, that CH1 zone was updated to allow 6 units per building. At that time, the underlying policy wasn't amended to match that updated zoning. That mismatch has since been corrected through our regional plan review and housekeeping amendments earlier this year. So the policy in that CH1 zone regulations are now fully aligned at 6 units per building. Now, policy IM7 requires council to ensure that any proposed rezoning aligns with the overall vision of the regional center land use by, or sorry, the regional center municipal planning strategy. And that this project is appropriate in terms of servicing needs, proximity to community facilities, and measures to prevent or address potential conflicts. Public engagement for this proposal included the creation of a website at halifax.ca, a fact sheet mail-out notification, which was delivered to 37 residents and tenants within an 80-meter radius of the site, and a post on our engagehalifax.ca website, which featured a narrated presentation. In total, we received 111 views on the halifax.ca application page. This was as of January 9th, and we received 18 individual phone calls and emails during that engagement period. All residents who contacted us were strongly opposed to the rezoning. They cited incompatible scale. However, those main buildings within that ER3 zone and CH1 zone are subject to similar built form requirements, with both zones adhering to similar height, setback, and lot coverage requirements. They also cited increased traffic. So traffic and emergency access were reviewed by HRM's Development Engineering and HRM Traffic Services. They confirmed no significant impacts to transportation network were apparent. Further, the transportation impact study provided by the applicant did not indicate any concerns, and the findings were reviewed and accepted by HRM's Development Engineering. Environmental concerns were also raised, such as wildlife impacts, stormwater runoff, and sewer capacity. So those environmental considerations, including our stormwater management, will be addressed through detailed engineering plans at permitting. No wetlands or watercourses have been identified on site. Wildlife impacts are expected to be minimal, given the urban context, as stated by HRM Environment and Climate Change. Concerns were also raised, fearing that there would be more crime and noise. This application is looking to provide additional dwelling units. The proposed residential use is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood and does not introduce any incompatible land uses. All that being said, staff are recommending that the Regional Center Community Council approve the amendments to Schedule 2 of the Regional Center Land Use Bylaw and rezone 13 Pinewood Drive from ER3 to CH1.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. And just looking now to Councillor Austin for questions of clarification.
Thank you, Ms. Chair, and thank you, Craig, for the presentation. I just want to ask about, in the policy piece you cited, one of the criteria being more efficient land use. Could you expand on just, how that's interpreted in the department?
Through the chair to the councillor. So our interpretations, again, they're generally based in-house. So more efficient use of land in this regard was as far as density was concerned. So in this case, we considered the possibility of rezoning this lot and permitting additional density on site to be a more efficient use of land, whereas the lot as it sits now currently cannot be subdivided. And where it's a particularly large lot, we figured that rezoning the lot itself would provide, again, more density.
And the limitation on subdivision here being the limited access out to the street?
Correct. Yeah, it was limited frontage, as well as there's a significant amount of easements running through the property in the line of water easements.
Okay. How do we assess the access? Some of the feedback I've received from the public around this is concerns movement to and from in traffic. How do we assess that, like, when this is such a strange piece of property with such a limited frontage?
So we generally put these back on the applicant at this point to provide studies in those impact statements. In this case, I believe I said traffic impact study. This was a traffic impact statement. So it was provided by the applicant, and then we had put that in front of our development engineering group. And again, all we can rely on is their feedback. They actually indicate that there's no concerns here at this point. So that's what we're running with.
Okay, my last question just concerns, you mentioned that, of course, we're doing the rezoning. It's not actually an approval of a specific application tonight, but they have given that illustrative idea of like where they're looking to go with this.
Yep.
Have we done any assessment of that application, even on a preliminary level, as to whether or not that would meet like all the built form requirements, setbacks, all those other kinds of provisions that come into play, even with the zoning?
Yeah, through the chair to the councillor. Yeah, we have. So this is part of our internal review process. So in this case, we put this development, this site plan, and whatever studies were provided by the applicant in front of our development officers, and they put that up as a test up against that CH1 zone, and they believe that this could be met
Okay,
moving forward.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Mancini.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Thanks for the presentation. Craig, can you bring up your slide again with the not the map, but the picture of the lot, sorry, the screen of a picture of the lot. Yeah, so the land around the proposed property, do we know who's the ownership of that? Is that CN?
Through the chair to the councillor, I believe CN owns the piece at the rear.
Okay,
And I do believe the other ones are privately owned.
Okay.
I can't put my finger on who owns them currently.
no, that's fine. So I was worried, I was wondering with the CN property. Is there communication with CN about this at all? Because of,
We did put this in front of CN,
Yeah.
and they did not provide anything constructive.
yeah, so they didn't have any comment either way.
No.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Anything further from councillors? Yes, Councillor White?
Thank you, Chair. My question was about, in ER3, we don't allow parking in the front like that. So why is it allowed? Or I know this is not the final thing, but why would this parking all at the front be allowed?
Through the chair to the councillor. Again, you're correct in saying that we don't have a finalized site plan at this point. From my understanding, where you saw parking today, that would be considered an internal courtyard. And I believe that ER3 zone does restrict parking lots to internal courtyards within those developments itself.
Interesting. So it doesn't have to be fully internal. It's like,
Again, this proposal was shown as it would be provided under the CH1 zone.
oh, I guess Pinewood's over there. Okay,
So
thanks.
Not seeing any further questions. Would the committee be okay if I asked one? Can you put that one back on, which is the basic plan? That one, yes, site plan. What is the red?
through the chair to the councillor, the red is indicating, I believe the red is indicating the easements that are on the property currently.
Okay,
So that being Nova Scotia Power and Halifax Water.
okay, those utilities, okay. Good, thank you very much. All right, not seeing anyone further, we'll now move to asking if there's a opening of the public hearing. Could I have a motion for that? Councillor Cleary and seconded by Councillor Austin. So the public hearing is open, and at this time, we are able to allow the applicant, who is 360 CAD, represented by David Chason, to do a 10-minute presentation. David, you can now come to the mic. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kent, and good evening to everyone here. My name is David Chason, and I work with a small local company called 360 CAD Services. We've been in business 17 years, and our major function is to help developers to go through all the documentation that's required by planning and permitting. And our client has approached us to help develop this property. And it was a lot of work to do this because there's a 20-foot sewer easement crossing the property at that red diagonal line that you were talking about. And plus the cluster housing regulations, there was a lot to do. And we're aware that there will be some concerns from the local community, but we did the best we could to follow the rules and to make sure that we looked at parking and everything else we had to do. So I don't see much point in repeating what Craig Warnell went through. So I'm just going to talk about 3 different points. It's no secret that HRM is a housing crisis right now. And as stated in the regional plan, is currently the most urgent priority in municipal land use planning and regulation development approval to rapidly increase the supply of housing. And we're seeing this across the board with our company. The phone doesn't stop ringing. There's a lot going on in the city. Our application responds to HRM's vision, core concepts, and urban design goals by increasing the residential density within the urban core while maintaining compatibility with surrounding development patterns and to encourage efficient land use and sustainable growth in established residential areas. Under the policy analysis, the staff report contains a comprehensive analysis of all applicable objectives and policies set out in the regional plan and the regional center secondary municipal planning strategy, and including your priority plans, and make a positive recommendation for our rezoning request. Our design follows the requirements, as Craig had mentioned in his presentation, of the cluster housing zone enabled by policy E4 of the regional center secondary planning strategy to demonstrate a more efficient use of an irregular shaped lot that would otherwise be difficult to develop under the ER3 zone. Our lot, as Craig mentioned, is 18,000 square feet with small frontage and encumbered by easements as shown on the slide. Our setbacks and heights are the same as the ER3 zone would be. And we prepared a preliminary site servicing plan to confirm compliance with the stormwater management on site. As Craig mentioned, we also carried out a traffic impact study, and we were happy with the results that that report gave us. Parking supply on this property is well in excess of the bylaw requirement. The site is in close proximity to the Windmill Road transit route. It's 100 meters away, and the proposed Wise Road rapid transit, it's about half a kilometer away. The landscaping design is to meet specific amenity area CH1 zoning requirements. We had a landscape architect review this entire piece of land. The general area was inhabited by the Mi'kmaq peoples and their ancestors for centuries. A notable historic Mi'kmaq settlement is known at Tufts Cove, half a kilometer south of the study area, and until its destruction by the Halifax explosion in 1917, with some Mi'kmaq continuing to live in the general area afterwards. Because of this, we commissioned an archaeological we commissioned an archaeological resources impact assessment with a local consultant to determine the potential for archaeological resources in the area and to provide recommendations for further mitigation if that was required. This is the 62-page report we got back, and this is available to anyone who wants to see it. I believe Craig has a copy of that as well. The provisional coordinator of special places agreed with the consultant's report recommendation to not require further investigation. If any archaeological resources are encountered during ground disturbance, we will cease all activity and contact the provincial coordinator regarding a suitable method of mitigation. I think that covers everything that the owner of the property would like to for me to cover. The property owner is here in the room tonight if anyone has questions, and we would like you to consider our application, knowing that there's a housing construction priority that there's the compliance of our application with all HRM planning policies and regulations, and our attendance to the culture and heritage of the area. I'm happy to take any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from Councillor Austin for the applicant?
Thank you, Ms. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Chason, for the presentation. So you referenced that you'd gone through a couple different, it was a challenging site to come up with a development plan for. In the absence of the cluster zoning, the ER3 allows for 8 units. Was that something that what would that have looked like on site? You must have kind of started with that kind of model in mind at some point too.
Yeah, when we first looked at that, and the easement, as you can tell, I mean, it's going right across the property as a diagonal, and there's no way that was going to be moved. So when I spoke with the client, property owner, he, like many property owners, are looking for maximum yield. And so as soon as he heard about the cluster housing policy, he wanted to explore that right away, and we didn't even spend much time on the 8-unit concept.
Okay. So you referenced to a lot of work on this. Where we aren't actually approving a development plan tonight, we are considering a rezoning. How committed is the applicant to actually building what we see in front of us? Is this kind of more concept, or is this can advance to a further level than that?
This is totally conceptual. Yeah, I talked to the property owner's general contractor at length, and they're going for affordable housing to ICF basement. They're using panel wall systems for the structure, and they are looking at about $1,400 per month for a 1-bedroom is what the intention is. Okay. So again, this is just a rendering image from our computer. These buildings will look significantly different.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's the end of my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further questions? Councillor Hinch?
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chason, for your presentation. So you talked about the land, Mi'kmaq land. So is there any representation in that? Did I hear anything about that when it comes to the land itself within this
Sorry,
project?
I didn't hear your
The
question.
Mi'kmaq, you said it's on Mi'kmaq land.
Yes.
So is that the only thing that you're bringing up with regards to what land it's on? Is there going to be any representation or anything embedded into this development?
I have not spoken to the property
Are they
owner.
going to be like, is there going to be? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. I have not spoken with the property owner about this, but I've been working with the same person for the last 5 years.
Uh-huh.
And one of the reasons I enjoy working with this person, Ian Stanley of Wombat Investments, is he truly cares about what the property looks like after the buildings are built and how things are presented to the public.
So has he talked with?
But I have not spoken to him about this particular property, but I'm convinced if he's here tonight, we can ask him
Can
about
I
it.
ask him?
Sure.
Where's he at?
Just want to remind committee members that this is a hearing for rezoning, and that the applicant has said that
I
there's.
understand, but he's
yeah.
the one that brought it up. So
Yeah,
that's why I just
okay.
have a question about it.
Okay, thank you. Would the owner like to come forward to a microphone and take a question? Thank you. Just turn the mic on. Just pull the mic over, push the button. Maybe you could introduce yourself, and then we'll get the councillor to reiterate the question.
G'day, my name's Ian Stanley. I'm the owner of Wombat Investments. I build and hold long-term real estate. I continually try to do affordable housing at different levels within the challenges that I face. So can you just repeat your question in terms
So
of?
he alluded to that this was McMoggy land, which
Mhm.
most of our city is. But my question is, the reason, I want to know the reason why he mentioned McMoggy land, were there
Well,
going
because
to
one
be?
of the things that we went and did is we wanted to make sure that the land didn't have any artifacts in it. So we went and did that big study.
Oh, you did, okay.
I at least suspected that before we did the study that there probably wasn't, because
Okay.
when HRM went through, whether it be Halifax Water or the power or et cetera, they dug up this site extensively, and it was done way before I even owned the property.
Okay.
But we wanted to make sure that we didn't find anything because of Tufts Cove and how close it happens to be to it. So we went into the property. Those reports are not cheap. We went through and took a look.
Mhm.
Nothing came up when we went through the report
Okay.
that we're aware about. As I said, I didn't suspect it because there is a gigantic hole that we could all walk through,
Mhm.
like pipe that runs through that property.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? No, not seeing anyone's mics or hands. We will now move into the public presentations. We have a speakers list. Members of the public will be given 5 minutes to address the topic, which is rezoning. When I call your name, you may come up to the microphone, state your name and the community of which you live. The clerk will hold up a yellow sign giving you that you have 30 seconds left. And then at the conclusion of your time that's allowed, a red sign will go up. And then if you're not finished, I'll ask you to wrap it up. Please keep your comments respectful and on topic and directed to me as the chair. Remind you that there is no clapping or show of support, which includes any comments sort of loud throughout the presentation. And after everyone on the list has been given the opportunity to speak, I'll call 3 times to see if there are any additional speakers. I now, we'll move into the speakers. I will call the first 3 off the list, and then so that you know who's coming next. And if you could be ready, that would be greatly appreciated. So we have Shay Ingram up first. We'll ask you to come to the mic. Then Carrie Hines, and Michael, I'm not sure if it's Hessingler or Geisingler. Maybe you come up, you can clarify what that is, and I apologize now for mispronunciation. Yes, that does as well. Yes, that might, and if I call your name and you weren't intentionally on it to speak, that's okay. You let us know, and you certainly throughout the evening would have another opportunity. Well, through this period of the evening. Okay, so Shay.
Yes, hello. My name's Shay Ingram, and I'm here representing my household and the residents on Pinewood and Lovett Street. We're asking council to deny the rezoning and uphold the current ER3 zoning. Recent updates have already expanded the residential lots to ER3 to allow more units and more housing options, specifically to enable density within the existing zoning while maintaining, sorry, I don't talk in front of people very often, maintaining neighborhood character and livability. The proposed rezoning to CH1 would allow possibly up to 24 units. That's tripling the density on a narrow street with limited space. And that's a street that's very hard for parking and maneuvering as well, and particularly during the winter months. Sorry. Okay. We don't think that's incremental growth. It's a fundamental shift in the scale and the intensity that exceeds the intended character of the street. So if 24 units were appropriate under ER3, it would already be allowed. The need for rezoning signals that it's exceeding the intended scale. Pinewood Drive is a short residential street. It has no sidewalks, and it wasn't designed to function as an access route for 24 households, construction vehicles, service trucks, and emergency vehicles all simultaneously. When cars are parked on the street, it effectively is a one-way street, so it just barely meets the two-way size. And from what I understand, the CH1 zoning does not require on-site parking in some cases. And that could, going forward with the rezoning, the design could change. So currently there's limited parking, could maybe become no parking. And that creates a spillover onto Pinewood and Lovett. And that's highly likely, creating congestion, delays, and safety concerns for the longstanding residents. We are not opposed to housing. We are asking council to ensure responsible growth that is compatible with the neighborhood scale and existing infrastructure. So with those points addressed, I just wanted to kind of briefly respond to some of the staff report. So while the site does present its challenges, efficiency should not override the intent of the ER3 zoning, which is designated for moderate compatible residential development. So irregular shape doesn't really justify tripling the density, in our opinion. And connectivity depends on the safe and functional operation of the street. Increasing density threefold directly impacts the street function, emergency access, and daily circulation. So compliance with minimum technical standards doesn't automatically mean compatibility with our small residential neighborhood. The traffic report provided by the applicant appears to overlook the unique context of Pinewood Drive and Lovett Street and how the street functions daily. It should receive further review. If the concept design is illustrative only, then if rezoned, there's no certainty regarding parking, buffering, building placement, or final impacts on the neighboring properties. The current concept appears to maximize lot coverage with tight constraints resulting in bulk and proximity that are inconsistent with our surrounding homes. So for these reasons, denying the rezoning is a reasonable decision that protects safety, compatibility, and the integrity of our neighborhood. Thank you for your respectful consideration.
Thank you, and it appears we have some potential questions for you.
Oh, geez.
Clarification only.
Yes.
Hi, Shay, great job.
Thank
Good job. You alluded to the traffic report oversight. Could you speak to that again? What was it you're thinking is missing from that?
Yes, I just feel like it doesn't take in the considerations of our street. Right now, if you looked at our street, it's covered in snow. It's completely narrow. There's definitely going to be major traffic concerns. If someone's parked on the street, it's a one-way street. So vehicles can't exit their parking spots. And yes, we feel like the report maybe is a little bit generous in the applicant's
Thank you.
favor.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? With your indulgence, I'd like to ask one. Councillor Mancini asked the other. So you started your presentation with you're representing the folks on Pinewood. Roughly how many would that be?
There would be about, I think, 21 residences that are kind of around
Residences.
the
And are many
neighborhood.
of them here this evening?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, that was my thoughts.
Okay.
I just wanted to have a sense of how many are on the street.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
Now, Carrie Hines. And Carrie, you have 5 minutes and begin now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and members of council, my neighbors and my friends. My name is Carrie Hines, and I am the proud homeowner at 11A Pinewood Drive for the past 16 years. My home is directly adjacent to the site we are discussing this evening, and I'd like to respectfully provide my feedback about my concerns as well as the concerns of my neighbors here regarding the proposed zone change from ER3 to CH1. While we understand and support the need for responsible housing opportunities and sustainable growth, urban growth within our community, I have significant concerns regarding the potential negative impacts this zoning change and development could have on my property and our neighborhood. My main concerns relate to the proposed density of 24 units, insufficient on-site parking, increased traffic, roadway safety, and the loss of our neighborhood's quiet character and livability. It's unrealistic to assume that minimal vehicle parking will be required for a development of this scale. The CH1 zoning designation is not appropriate for this location, especially given the absence of alternative year-round parking options in the area. With current rental costs being so high, Households often include multiple occupants and consequently multiple vehicles, a trend clearly visible in many of HRM's recent higher density and developments. Pinewood Drive is a narrow street with just enough space for two-way traffic, no sidewalks, and already limited street parking for existing residents. I did note from the presentation that a new sidewalk is being proposed, which would be a welcome addition for pedestrian safety. However, its impact on the existing streetscape, the driveways and established front yards should clearly be communicated and understood by myself and my neighbors to prevent unintended negative effects. I strongly urge, again, that a roadway infrastructure and access egress to Windmill Road from both Pinewood Drive and Lovett Drive be reviewed again carefully by HRM's Transportation Infrastructure Management Team before considering a potential zoning change. The area already experiences hazardous conditions during peak hours due to steep grades and limited visibility. In winter, vehicles often slide back down the hill while attempting to access Windmill Road during heavy rain. Runoff from the slopes often flood the easement. The vacant field has long served as a natural catchment for excess stormwater and has also been used by HRM for snow storage during the winter months. As the closest neighbor directly affected, I am particularly concerned about changes to the existing site access and easement, which also currently provides access to my own driveway. Any modification could result in the loss of mature trees and restrict my ability to enter or exit my property, an issue I've already experienced on several occasions when contractors and surveyors have parked in the easement, completely blocking my access. I respectfully request to be recognized as a stakeholder in the site access design process to ensure that my property value and asset value are not adversely impacted. While I appreciate the development inevitability involves balancing multiple interests here, I believe that this proposal, as currently designed, exceeds what's reasonable for our neighborhood. We support development of the site, but not at the proposed 24-unit density and not under a zoning change. The existing ER3 zoning was established with clear guidelines for appropriate context-sensitive growth, allowing for up to 8 dwelling units, a scale more compatible with the surrounding community and consistent with HRM's planning objectives for gentle density increases. I believe that this proposed zoning change is incongruent to the existing infrastructure of single and dual family dwellings that surround the area. Under the current ER zoning, the site at 13 Pinewood Drive would permit up to 8 residential units by right, given its lot size. The application for 24 units under a CH1 rezoning therefore represents a 3-fold increase above the typical ER3 unit cap. We believe that such a substantial increase is incompatible with the narrow street, the existing build form in the neighborhood, and the infrastructure of the area. I respectfully request HRM Development Services and the council not recommend approving the zoning change request. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. If there's any
Thank
questions.
you very much. It was almost perfectly on time.
I tried.
Yeah, well done. Are there any questions of clarification? Not seeing any, no? Well, thank you very much. Now call Michael. And then that will be followed by Teresa Yetman and then Darren Yetman. And could you please spell your last name so we are clear?
Geislinger,
How do you pronounce it?
Geislinger.
Geislinger.
I'm going
That's
to do an
close.
absolutely horrible job of this, as I'm not one bit prepared, but I have just a very few key points that have come up since we started this discussion. I am another developer for Pinewood Drive. I feel that I've been involved in the street since 2021, by the purchase of 5 Pinewood Drive. And last year, I purchased 6 Pinewood Drive. Both have development agreements already for them. They will both be, one will be 4 townhouses and one will be a 4-unit building. I obviously was able to do 8 per unit. The neighborhood, the fitment, it would look silly to have an 8-unit there. Also, the street is not your regular Dartmouth street. When I do snow removal just today, it's a very hard street to maneuver on. It is, if, I'm sure many people here have been very upset with me parked on the street, loading dump trailers, people honking the horns. If you do have equipment on the street to load and unload, any emergency vehicle will have to take the other route around. One part of my right-of-way agreements was to have off-site parking for all my vehicles. I'm sure he could also do the same. My point being, I'd like everybody to consider if the rest of the street maximizes out, and they will, it'll maximize out the current zoning, what will the street be left with for the end of the lot for 13? Will the street then need to be completely reconstructed? Will no one have a front yard? Under the current rules, I feel that the street would still be able to strive and be a wonderful community, leaving it with, if someone left with, if we did do 8 units, the street would be gone. If we kept it with the 4 units, it would still be a lovely street for everybody to enjoy. I also don't feel that anyone's studies encompass what permits are already approved for the street. If we say, oh, today traffic is fine, we're going to add 24 units into the street, won't be any problems. I feel that if we add another 16 units to the street and then we add the 24 at the end, I don't see it being a very usable street anymore. I'm not as much dislike. I hate seeing vacant lots. I love seeing new construction. It's what we're all involved in. We're all here to build wonderful homes for everybody. I do believe it might be a little excessive. I do feel that a compromise could absolutely be reached for development for the property, but I do think that the 24 might be slightly excessive with the other developments already approved for Pinewood Drive. I think that's about it.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, clarification? Councillor White.
Thanks, Michael. I was just curious about, so you have 2 lots and you're going to do 4 units on each.
Yes, one is an already approved 4-unit fourplex, and the other will be 4 townhouses.
Okay, and you said, so are you not having the off-site parking? I was curious, where is it and why?
So
why did you-
through everything I've done, they require one parking spot per 3 units under the ER3 zoning. So for each unit, I would technically have, for each complex, I'd have to have 2 off-site parking spots, but we do supply 1 parking spot per unit.
On site?
On site, yep.
Okay, maybe I'll ask staff later. I didn't think there was any parking requirements.
Oh, there isn't.
Okay.
Well, no, there is, for the ER3, there's 1 spot per 3 units.
I don't think there is, but I'll get
There,
staff.
there was when
Yeah.
we did
Oh,
our
different
developments,
here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Austin.
Just wanted to clarify, I missed at the beginning there. Where's your property on 6 and 5?
Yep.
Okay. So you're on the front end of this?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Teresa Yetman, and followed by Darren Yetman and Jacqueline Sanford. So Teresa, you can come to the mic. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Teresa Yetman. Darren and I actually signed up in error. We thought it was just a sign-in sheet, but I do have something to say. Number one, nobody has mentioned the wildlife that we have and the impact that it could have on that. We have deer that are in our area all the time. It's already dangerous for them. So that would definitely be impacted, and I think it's something that we should be thinking about. The other is the traffic. Again, we live on Levitt Street, so we're a little bit away than some of the other people that are speaking tonight, but the streets are so narrow, right? Just tonight when we were coming in, I said, I wish I had taken a picture. We pulled out of our driveway and there was another car that had pulled in and stopped, and we had to back up to turn and go the other way just to leave. If someone's getting an oil delivery, you're stuck until they're done. There's not room for that many cars. And 24 units, I wasn't even aware of the other ones coming. 24 units is potentially 48 cars. There is nowhere for them. Coming on to Levitt or Pinewood from Windmill Road is dangerous. Like, I have almost hit cars parked on the side of the road several times because of where they are, and you can't see them until you're on the street. So, I mean, that's all I really have to say.
Thank you very much. And Darren, are you coming forward? No, thank you very much. She said it all for you. Does that happen very often? Okay, on the list now, we have the last two that are actually listed, Jacqueline Sanford and then Andrew Nagoyan.
Hello, members of council and neighborhood of Pinewood. I don't live on Pinewood Street, but I am a frequent visitor, a friend of Pinewood. I actually at one point dreamed of buying that vacant lot so I could live next to my bestie, Miss Carrie Hines. We made reasonable market offers many times over the years, and unfortunately we weren't the ones to snag up this lovely little lot. But I just wanted to come here and offer my support as a member, someone who lives on the Dartmouth side, like I said, a frequent visitor, and someone who is really interested in planning, as I have a daughter who's in planning school right now at University of Waterloo. So we talk about this stuff all the time, and I actually sent her case studies. I just wanted to reiterate and support the idea of development, of reasonable contextual development. I'm not sure if any of you have taken the time to drive down this street, but it is literally, it's not a lie to say it's uphill both ways. It's downhill both ways. It's a little horseshoe shape. And I have significant concerns when I visit around just parking my own car. I have significant concerns about the stormwater running down the hill and the fact that HRM does use this as a storage place to plow all the snow from the road into this lot at the moment. So we're just wondering where that's going to go. Where will that happen? I'd love to see the floodplain mapping of this, and then to also speak to the residents, talk about the idea of the wildlife corridor. This development is jammed right against the train tracks. So, and we've already talked about the significant site challenges, given the easements. I question the actual statement of 25 feet of road access. I would certainly call that into question. I think it's even significantly smaller. The easements and the neighboring driveways would be significantly impacted. And like I said, this is a wildlife corridor. This area does back onto the Shannon Park development lands. And as we know, that is going to be developed at all kinds of density, housing, whatever. We know that there's many local large scale developments coming online in Dartmouth right now. And we just really feel that there's no reason to ruin this sweet street with more than 8 units. Eight is enough. That's what I just like for you guys to think about. Just remember that 8 is enough. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Seeing no one with questions, we'll now call Andrew Nagoyan.
Hello, neighbors. I also signed up in error, but
Okay.
I'll say something. Whatever.
Can you state your name?
Yeah, my name is Andrew Nguyen.
Nguyen,
A great
thank you.
stab at the wrong course, but it's fine. I've grew up basically. I grew up on Trinity, which is just across the street from Pinewood. My father started his business. It's on the corner, like right on Windmill there. So that street has been a part of my life for 40 years of my life. I've have a lot of love for that street. I live on it now, and I think I can't really say much more than what's already been said here. The concerns, like the entire neighborhood has them. The idea of maybe 24 or more cars taking a run up that hill to get up in the wintertime and sliding back down and going back up again, and everyone just like being stuck there is a nightmare to me. There's young kids who run around playing the street. I think that's really nice. I think that's something that makes me very fond of Dartmouth, and I would love for that to still be a thing instead of just worrying constantly about what's going on and if everyone's okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will have no one else left on our speakers list for sign up. And so now I will call 3 times to see if there are any further. Okay, if you'd like to come up, go ahead. I haven't called, but put your hand up. I ask you to state your name and your area of
Yeah, hi.
housing.
My name is Chris Marquides. I'm a senior planner with Zap Consulting. I
Okay.
have no stake in this application, but I just thought I'd share my
Listening.
perspective on this. So lot is 18,000 square feet. While it can't be subdivided today, so I say senior planner, I know this land use bylaw and the subdivision bylaw like the back of my hand. So the applicant could extend the street to create a bulb to allow for subdivision of 3 lots. Those 3 lots each of 6,000 square feet, because 18,000 square foot lot. Each lot could have up to 8 units. So again, 24 units total. What I will say is that in the ER3 zone, if you have more than 4 units, you can't do surface parking. So the cluster housing zone allows for surface parking shared across multiple lots. In the ER3 zone, you can't do surface parking if you have more than 4 units. That's just a quirk of the bylaw. You also can't share parking over multiple lots. So the concerns about parking, you're actually better off going with the CH zone than the ER3 zone. But yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
Thank you. Other question? Yes. Councillor Austin.
It's rather unusual to have a planner, but I'll take advantage of the opportunity to ask the question. So you were saying in the cluster zone, there's actually more surface parking allowed than in the ER3 as it stands.
Yeah, you can't do surface parking lots for buildings with over 4 units in the ER3 zone.
So you can't do surface parking lots. So because it's cluster,
The cluster housing zone allows for
which goes on the easement.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other piece you raised was, could you say that again about how extending the street and subdividing?
So you can extend the street. You can apply for basically subdivision that would extend the public right of way and then create more frontage for new lots.
So we'd have like Pinewood Close or Crescent or something
Yeah,
come
you
down
basically
and-
you would have, well, essentially just at the end of that street would be a cul-de-sac bulb.
Okay.
And you create frontage that way.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's the end of my questions or clarification.
Thank you. I see nothing further. Can I just ask you a question quickly? Thank you. What was your name again?
Chris,
Thank you. So Chris, just to make sure I understand that, if there was a bulb created, that's a mechanism which would allow for a subdivision for
Correct.
3 lots with 8.
Correct.
Right, okay. And less parking.
Yeah, be more expensive, but doable. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Any further presentations? Anyone? Okay, thank you. Come to the mic.
Hi, Ross Cantwell, Point Pleasant Drive. I too have a degree from a School of Planning, but come at it a little bit differently. HRM is a shortage of housing, and HRM also has an operational cost issue. We can't allow sprawl to keep going out and out and out. A lot of people talked about wildlife, but I'd rather see infill in the urban core than taking 100 acres of wilderness and doing more 2-acre lot housing. So I think this is very environmentally sensitive relative to the alternatives. The property is 18,000 square feet. When you look around the neighborhood, I just did a quick look. Other lots in the neighborhood are 2,633 square feet, 6,700 square feet, 2,500 square feet, 2,500 square feet, 5,200 square feet. So it is a very large lot relative to the houses around it. And so therefore, some more density is appropriate. The street is lovely, no question. It's narrow, which is lovely in the summer. Clearly there's issues with snow, but there appears to be a lot of on-site parking because the developer is dealing with an easement that he can't build on. So the logical thing is to put parking there. The municipality may want to consider making it a one-way. That might solve some of the problems that they've been talking about. This section of Dartmouth has been pretty sleepy for a long, long time, but that's changing with Ocean Breeze Estates and Shannon Park and everything else that's going on in the area. So I don't see the density relative to what's happening now to be that bad. And most importantly, all the, what's the saying? The best food at the party goes first. You go to a party, all the great snacks go first. When you're developing a city, all the easy lots go first. So we're running out of lots that are easy to develop. And that's why the cluster housing zone is so important, because it's going to allow the municipality to unlock these weird orphan sites like this one, which only has a tiny bit of frontage and is a big lot and can support more housing. So I think this rezoning application is appropriate. And I encourage HRM to continue working on the cluster housing zone as a way to sort of unlock some of the potential of orphan sites in the urban core, which is the way our city should grow.
Thank you, Ross. I think we have a question from Councillor Austin.
Oh, no, I left my
No?
mic.
Sorry about that. Okay, so another call for, okay, we have 1, 2. All right. That's Darren, so I'll put you down. Thank you. Go ahead. I think the mic is on.
Okay. Hi, my name's Benjamin May, local resident of Bedford, but pro affordable housing and development. I just wanted to kind of share an observation about the parking and being in the front yard. If you take a look at the street, most of the parking spaces are either half in front of a house or half on the side yard. There's actually a couple houses where the cars are parked directly in front and there's no side yard. The entire front yard's all asphalt for parking. So listening to some of the other colleagues here talk about parking and how ER3 actually doesn't allow for surface parking, I just wanted to kind of point out that whether there's parking in the perceived front yard or side yard, it's kind of in line with what other homes on the street are already experiencing. That's all I wanted to share.
Thank you very much. No questions. Now call Darren Yetman again.
Thank you very much. I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to let my wife Teresa say it all. She was pretty good at that. But the gentleman before this gentleman here, he's talking about the best snacks go first. So the best parcels of land go, and the shitty stuff's left over.
Just ask you to mind your language.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right next to this lot is lands that used to belong to Shaw Brick. I'm assuming still does. It's a very big lot. Develop there, and you get your fix for all these new buildings going up, whatever. I haven't heard anybody mention the ownership of that. That's right next to it. That was Shaw Brick years ago. They used to build. They used to make their cinder blocks there before they moved out to Lance. We don't need it. Go next door. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Okay, let's start this 3 call again. Are there any further speakers from the gallery? Yes, we have one in the corner. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Robin Cross. I live at 10 Lovett Street. I would like to invite every one of you guys to take a trip down our street and take a good look at the narrowness and picture a fire truck trying to squeeze in through there. I understand they spend a lot of money on research. I'm sorry to sound a little bit sarcastic, maybe. I'm not trying to. But for a company to spend that much money on research for developing in a community, they haven't asked the people in the community what their thoughts were when applying it to what they're researching. They didn't ask, well, do you have any concerns? Do you have any whatever? None of it. And I have a hard time trusting a company that didn't even knock on my door to say, hi, we're a company looking to build in your area and would like to know what your input is. So there's that. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Are there any further speakers from the gallery? Second call. Are there any further speakers from the gallery? I can't see around the corner, so you're going to have to let me know. Last call. Are there any? You can't speak again. You don't. Perhaps, no, we as counselors can ask on your behalf if that was raised during your speaking, if the counselor catches it. Otherwise, yours is complete. It's not back and forth. Thank you for the question, though. It helps to understand it. And my third call, are there any further speakers from the gallery? Hearing none, I can now offer the applicant through David, I assume, or the property owner to respond to any points that were raised by the speakers that you feel you should clarify that was said, and you have 5 minutes. Is there an interest? Sure. Okay.
I have a very interesting role in the line of work I do because I am two people in one. One is I'm a businessman and my clients pay me well to help them design buildings like the ones we've done in this property. But I'm also a human being. And my grandfather lived on Trinity in my childhood, and I spent many, many hours there. So when I hear people from the gallery speaking to us, I understand where they're coming from. I truly, truly do. And our client is responding to a housing crisis. There's many people living in tents everywhere. You can see it wherever you go in this city. So I'm totally torn on, I love animals. I love deer. And so this lady was talking about, the wildlife. I mean, that touched me because I have deer in my neighborhood and raccoons, and I love wildlife. So I wish there was a way to make everyone in the world happy, but there isn't. Maybe the property owner after tonight might consider 8 units. Maybe he will, but he's the guy with the money. I don't have control over that. So I'm just speaking to you as a human being, as well as a businessman, that I wish there was a way we could make everyone happy, that this is the price of development. I often say to people, no one thought about that when you were building your house. You wanted your house there, but now that someone's coming in behind you, now it's not so great that you want them there, but you sure were happy to put your house there when you did. So it's a real dance. I don't know how to respond to it. Ian, would you like to say anything?
There's still 3 minutes remaining for this property owner. He's the applicant. He's allowed to offer.
I answered questions.
It's around, this is to be kept to
This is gonna be really quick.
clarification
So
if there was something spoken today that you want to address.
if I can't do the cluster and I'm limited to the 8, I will then explore doing, we'll call it the cul-de-sac or the bulb. We're gonna run into a parking issue on the street. I am trying to get as many parking spots on this property as
Just
humanly possible.
present to me.
I'm trying to get as many parking spots on this
Ian,
property.
just make sure you're putting your remarks to me,
Oh,
not
sure.
to the
Okay, sure,
audience.
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm trying to get as many parking lots on the property as humanly possible to keep as many cars off the street that I can. If I go to the ER zoning, I'm actually limited to the number of parking spots I can do. I would then have to change the development to, in essence, subdivide through there's ways and means to do it. It's a whole lot more expensive. It's going to wreck trying to do affordability, which I'm trying to do. We're pretty close to public transit. So with the cluster, I can at least get 12. And if I can figure out how to get 14 or 15, I'll put it all on. In my experience, not everyone, I know people say otherwise, not everyone is going to have cars. That's just the reality of what it is. So that's why I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do to get as much density for cars on the site as it is. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Okay. Now I need a motion to close public hearing, please. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Austin moved and seconded by Councillor Cleary to close the public hearing. And just want to ask now to staff if there is any points of clarification that you'd like to offer. Maggie Holmes.
Good evening. Pardon me. Good evening, Council. I just wanted to make one clarification on the comments about the cul-de-sac, the ability of a cul-de-sac on the lands. This is an existing undersized lot relative to its frontage, so it actually doesn't have enough frontage to enable a public street be put in through there. So that was something that we confirmed with the development officers through the application, and again today we had the conversation with them. So the idea of a public street being put in there is it's not possible, but it also wouldn't be very financially viable. The cost per linear foot of a road, a public road, including a bulb, would be prohibitive, and really the need for an increased density to offset the cost of that street, were it even possible, which it's not, would then see a much higher yield necessary on the lot. So in any case, just a clarification that there is no ability to have a public street pushed through into the lot.
Okay.
Thank
you. And a clarification or question for you, Maggie.
Certainly.
Councillor Clary.
Thank you, Ms. Holm. What is the width required? I'm looking at this here. And it's funny when you look at it because Pinewood's probably only 15 or 16 feet wide, but the right of way looks pretty standard. And so the entry to this, I think someone said was 25 feet. So what would be the required? Is
It's
that
a
the
little
35?
under 25. It's somewhere around 35.
Yeah.
There is the ability to ask for a variance through the engineering variance on those typical streets, and that may even be something that would be warranted in this instance, where those streets really act more like a lane than a road.
So
necessarily,
as of
but
right, it wouldn't be possible. There could be a pathway to try to get something through a variance.
it's
get a
possible,
street.
but again, the costs that would incur in putting that street through really make it less likely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor White.
Maggie, my understanding, well, if it's ER3 zone, you're not allowed to have street parking passes when you're over 4 units. Is that the same for this cluster?
The minimum housing, thank you. Yes, the standards that are now in the regional plan, there's no requirement for parking for residential uses across the board.
No,
right
I'm talking
now.
about, I don't think it would be good if people could get a street permit, like, then there'd be cars everywhere. There
Right.
could be. So
Yes.
The rule is they can't get it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
There are certain areas, there's a map. There are certain areas where you can apply for non-street parking in certain instances, like Fenwick and Halifax, places where some of the old historic fabric doesn't have space for a driveway. There are places like that where there is the ability to request. I don't know off the top of my head if this is one of those areas where those permits can be requested through the municipality.
I'm just familiar with the rule that any development over 4 units, you can't get a street permit.
And unfortunately, I don't know the
Okay,
answer to that
you don't know.
specifically.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Maggie, several of residents pointed out, the width of the street and that the dynamic here, no sidewalks. This is certainly not a standard street.
Correct.
How does that factor into the staff recommendation and analysis you folks have done?
It's certainly part of the piece of the puzzle. This is not a unique situation, unfortunately, across HRM. Even in the neighborhood I live in Rockingham and Halifax, you're on a public street, you're on a narrow laneway. I think part of it is the proximity to Windmill Road. So it really isn't that far from a place where there is connectivity. Windmill Road's a corridor. So we do envision that that's going to be built up. Maybe those sidewalks are going to be improved. This side, because of this narrow width lane, it really doesn't have space to create a sidewalk on one side or the other. There's many roads out there. Some Councillor Cleary, we had one in your district not that long ago, in a similar situation, I might add, where the property was really 2 or 3 lots back from, in that case, it was Joseph Howe Drive. Dutch Village now. So yes, it does play in, but the proximity to the sidewalks is very close in this case. And I don't think it would be warranted to put sidewalks in on these lanes. It would be very impactful to the community overall.
Okay. If I may, Ms. Chair, there was two questions, one about impacts during construction, and then there was a question about snow management on the street. I don't know, Maggie, if you can speak to either of.
Snow management is the same
It's not your-
all around HRM. Yeah,
Because right now we're
it gets
pushing
moved where it's going to
snow
get moved.
onto this property.
Yep, it's going to get, my own house this morning, I went to catch the bus and transit came and cleaned out the bus stop that's in front of my house, but now the sidewalk is full of snow. So that is something that's not unique to any lot, and it is really just it's a municipal issue rather than the property owners.
And what about, whether or not it's this rezoning or ER3, there is construction to come. What does that process look like for a community where there is development going on?
Right, that would be the construction and mitigation through our development engineering. That is something that would be prepared at permitting. The part of that permitting process would be a plan to how to mitigate construction impacts on the site. And then development engineering would be involved all the way through. So if there were issues through that development, they would reach out through HRM 311 ideally. That would get vetted over to development services. And I think I asked one of the development engineer techs to go check out a site just last week. So as soon as we hear about an issue, we send out one of the development engineers to confirm or deny whether there is an issue on site. A lot of times they can speak to the contractors on site and have whatever remedy right away. Sometimes not, and that's more of a conversation that happens. But that's really, there's a plan that's been put in place at the time the construction starts, and HRM monitors that.
And would a plan for a street like this, where it is such a non-standard street, is that something that would be taken into account in that kind of mitigation plan?
It could be. Unfortunately, I don't have all the details
I
on
know,
how
I'm
those
kinda- I'm
plans.
kinda jumping
It's a
ahead, I
little
know.
outside of the planning and more into the engineering scope.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? By the way, I should acknowledge that I've been calling this a committee. It is actually Regional Center Community Council. I'm on so many different boards and committees and commissions and councils that sometimes they get, and sometimes I call them the wrong, not name, but anyway, their role. So forgive me for that. Okay, so no further questions from council members. What are the wishes of Community Council? Would someone like to put the motion on the floor? Thank you, Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. As soon as I can find it here. Do you have a column? Thank you. I move that Regional Center Community Council adopt the amendments to Schedule 2 of the Regional Center Land Use Bylaw as set on Attachment A of the staff report dated December 31st, 2025.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded by Councillor Cleary. And would you like to speak to this,
Oh,
Councillor
yes,
Austin?
most
Thank you.
definitely. Thank you, Ms. Chair and colleagues and community and everyone who's come out and contributed to tonight. I am somewhat new to your side of the community. Councillor Mancini and I, our boundaries swapped in the last election, but I have been on your street. I remember coming down to the cemetery. And it is a different world. It is a little laneway that you go down into there, and it does feel like a place kind of apart from the rest of the city. So I very much get like the references to green space and to the uniqueness of it. Yeah, I've seen that, and I understand the desire to protect that and preserve that. I also understand where we are in terms of the municipality in terms of housing. And so, these are tough things to square. That is for sure. I did actually have one more question for Maggie. Sorry, Maggie, to drag you up or Craig. Just going back to like the uniqueness. Oh, sorry. Just going back to the uniqueness of this property, right? Where it's large. It has limited frontage. It's not like its neighbors. Like when we're looking at a cluster zone, is that something anyone can apply for, or is it limited to these sorts of situations that
is.
don't fit the mold,
Yeah,
right? Like, could I apply at my house for a cluster zone?
No. It's a really interesting new tool that we have in the regional center. I am a big fan of the zone. It allows a lot of flexibility. That flexibility allows you to site things in a way that may be more appropriate. It may get a little more density in there, but it's really allowing that irregular. If you look at this lot, it's very irregular. Some are more or less irregular, but this is really a unique situation where applying the regular zone of ER1, ER2, ER3, R1, R2, whatever it is a really limiting factor into the lot. So in the right places for very irregular shaped lots, yes, this is an interesting tool that can allow a flexibility and a different style of housing. Ultimately, I think we're going to see less parking. Maybe there's a mix of unit styles in there, but yes, it's not something that everybody can apply for. I think the policy is set out so that it is irregular shaped lots.
Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate that clarification because, I mean, I am going to support this. I think it is, I get the community concern. I get the love of this area. When we adopted these planning rules, you know, the goal was to have some more infill. We can have a disagreement about whether or not this is the right scale. Because we're missing the middle chunk of housing in our city. And so what I see of this proposal is it's an attempt to kind of fulfill that. It's not perfect, but I think there's more good that comes out of this than harm. So I'm going to support it tonight, and I would ask the committee to as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any further? Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And similar to Councillor Ross, well, let me start. Thanks everyone for coming out. Thanks for the property owner, the planner. Thanks for our planners. Thanks for the community. And those who also were not exactly from the community, but spoke on this as well. So just to back up, so when we did the center plan, and especially in 2021, when we did package B, because all of this was part of package B, and I remember having many discussions with Ms. Holm and lots of folks on the team. And there was one property owner in my district that wanted to have this in as part of it because we only did 3 or 4 cluster zones when we actually brought it in because there were so many potential kind of large irregular lots that was like, well, how do we pick them? We'll just leave them as ER and then we'll see what comes in. And very few have come in so far. I'm actually surprised by this. So there's a couple in my own district that are percolating up. One almost came in and then he had a community meeting and now he's going back to do a second look at it to see what else could be there. And so that one will probably come forward in the next little while. But the idea of these is to relax. And so someone said, you know, this isn't appropriate. Actually, the cluster zone, we made it as of right to apply from ER to cluster if you met certain criteria because we wanted a pathway for these kind of properties. And so as long as they met the policy, you could go in and apply for this. I had one, and I've been down your street, and although it is a little bit more narrow, not much than when boundaries weren't changed. Albion and Park Hill, if you ever go down Purcell's Cove Road and you could go down by the Tag Theater, those are tiny little streets, laneways like yours. And we voted to allow I think it was 14 unit development, Bearland condo down at the end on 10 Kirk Road. And same concerns were brought up by the community. And so our parking staff actually went in and did some analysis in there and they changed a few things. Fire definitely wanted that, by the way. And so we added more density in a community just like yours. That's 14, but they were 14 large homes on the ocean. Definitely not affordable, by the way. And so the idea here is someone mentioned the traffic impact statement. All that does is it looks at trip generation tables and says, okay, if you have this kind of use, how many cars are going to go in and out because of this? And you look at the road and you say, well, if it's 20 cars or 30 cars or 40 cars, given what's there and the capacity of the road. So those things don't say it's appropriate or inappropriate. It's just about, can that many more vehicles go down these streets? That's what that refers to. And I think it was Teresa, I think I have the name right, brought up the deer. I live on Quinpool. I've had deer on my front lawn. I don't know if you remember the deer that broke into the Uncommon Grounds coffee shop a few years ago. And someone brought up 8 is Enough. One of my favorite TV shows. I grew up on that. Dick Van Patten was one of the best dads on TV ever. He was awesome. So I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm gonna agree with Councillor Austin on this. This is exactly the kind of lot, and I know you don't want to hear it, but this is exactly the kind of lot where this kind of development is actually appropriate. If you don't like this, you're definitely not going to like Shannon Park. You're not going to like Ocean Breeze. You're not going to like all the stuff that's just up the road from you. And whoever mentioned the Shaw Brick, that'll probably be developed soon too. And so we need to densify and further densify the urban core if we want to be financially and environmentally sustainable. And so this is actually exactly what the cluster zone was intended to do when we brought it in 2021. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mancini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm wondering, Craig or Maggie, if you wouldn't mind coming back up again. My first question is, can you clarify once again the process that is going to happen, Craig? So tonight we're here to talk about the zoning. So if the zoning gets approved tonight, what happens next?
So after the zoning is decided on tonight, there'll be a 14-day appeal period.
Yes.
After which time we will take the time to wait those 14 days, whether or not there's appeal. Should there be no appeal and it's approved this evening, after some time would pass, these amendments would be adopted into that Schedule 2. The lot would be zoned CH1, and then the applicant would then have the opportunity to apply for those building permits. And then there will be that full due process where the building permits were reviewed against that CH1 zone, whether it be built form, parking, and all of those types of things.
So does the community, the folks that are here tonight, and do they have an opportunity to give feedback on the design in official capacity?
No, there would be no opportunity at that point. That application would be considered as of right. So it would be taken internally and decided by our development officers and our engineering group and our building officials.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that. A lot of comments about the narrow road and the concern about emergency vehicles. When you look at applications like this, can you explain, the conversation, the communication you have with the emergency vehicles? We do go to them, do we not?
Yeah, that's part of our application review. So our team review, we sit down with Halifax Fire, Halifax Water, and those types of organizations, and we put the applications and the plans in front of them, give them an opportunity to comment back. In this case, Halifax Fire did not take the opportunity to comment on the plans.
So they would know the narrowness, they would know that the challenge in the wintertime, and so they have to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Not at that opportunity. They would decide whether or not to comment, make comments or not make comments.
But typically, if they had a concern, they would make.
Generally, yeah, if there was an issue arise, like at that point, we make a fairly informal presentation to that group of individuals. Again, those professionals. We explain to them what's going on, what's happening, where it's happening, and why it's happening. And then they would have an opportunity to review the application or not.
Okay, thank you for that. Someone made a comment about the property owner not knocking on the doors. And when I look, we deal with a lot of developers, large, small, in between. We have good developers, we have not so great developers, we have great counselors and not so great counselors. I mean, it's in all professions, right? In my opinion, when we have good developers, they do good work and do good design, but they also recognize the communities that they're working in. And with a community like this, a small community like that, my recommendation, if it gets approved, I'm looking at the owner of the property, is to knock on the doors, even after the fact, is to communicate on the design, even though they're not forced to, but should be communicating. Some people ask, can they, they would like to have some input to that design. I ask you, sir, it looks like if we follow the words of the council of the area, this most likely will get approved tonight. But I do ask you to reach out to the neighborhoods. I know it's hard. You're feeling the needles in your back right now, but they're concerned about their community. We have to follow the rules. We can only go by the data that's provided to us. And so we have to follow those rules and the data that's provided. But I do ask you, sir, to reach out to the community, sit down with them, have a coffee, look at their concerns, see what you can do. Someone used the word compromise. What are the compromises? So I hope that you do that, sir, because that's, in my opinion, that's one of the key factors of a good developer versus a not so good developer, to communicate, especially when we have a small community like this. My concern of this development is this narrow road is unusual, and I can understand it. I'd have the same concerns if I was living on that street, but again, I keep repeating myself, we can only go by the data and the guidelines that we have in front of us. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further councillors who would like to speak on this? No, Councillor Austin, are you closing or are you just? Okay. No, I'm good. Okay. Question's been called. All in favor say aye. Raise your hand with aye. And there are no opposed. Oh, sorry, that was an aye. Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you all for attending. Appreciate it. So the motion passed. And I encourage you to, you, thank you. I encourage you to just, be patient, and we'll have to wait and see what the applicant does. Okay, we'll just take a moment while people are leaving before we start the next hearing.
Low density can't be on the property, even though there's an existing garage there. Replacing the garage. And then under ER3, I think the reduced version under ER3 limits the maximum width. We're doing a big block, but I mean, that's, yeah. It seems like it's easier to do shit like this.
David, quite well. Good to meet you in person. I see you on the computer quite often, but yeah.
Nice to meet you, Craig.
You too. Come on, Ross.
Yeah.
I expected the people to show up.
And
they've got to do, I mean, quite the lot. That's
Okay, I'm going to just remind folks that are in the chamber right now, we do have another hearing, so you might want to take your conversations. I don't want to limit them, but maybe they can be done outside in the larger foyer. David, good to see you again. I'm going to have to call Maggie. We have to start. Yes, and that's wonderful. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Okay. Okay, folks, we're now on 10.1.2, a planning application 2025-01836, land use bylaw amendment for the rezoning of 348 Pleasant Street, Dartmouth. Thank you for joining us for this public hearing. The process will start with staff presentation and then questions of clarification from the councilors. Public hearing will be open and the applicant will be given an opportunity to present. And after that, we'll go into public hearing speakers from the public. So, Madam Clerk, can you confirm that if there is any additional correspondence received hearing before the meeting today?
There was no correspondence received for this item.
Okay, thank you. So now we have Matthew Conlon. It's great to have you here, Matthew, and the floor is yours.
Just get this queued up. Perfect. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of Regional Center Community Council. My name is Matt Conlon. I'm a Planner 3 with the Urban Enabled Planning Applications team. We're here today to chat about Plan App 2025-01836, which is a rezoning application for 348 Pleasant Street in Dartmouth. So the applicant this evening is ZAP Consulting. The location, as I said, is at 348 Pleasant Street in the Dartmouth area. The proposal would be for a future 7-story or 20-meter high multi-unit dwelling. And the type of application we're looking at here today would be the rezoning of the lands from the current zone to a new zone to be proposed in just a moment. For a little bit of site context, on the left-hand side, you can see our site circled in red. I've tried to highlight as best I can from the bird's eye view where we find ourselves. So you can see the Halifax Harbor there on the side. Just, excuse me, up the street towards sort of the north, closer to Mount Hope Avenue, we've got the
General location across from the Dartmouth General Hospital, just above Mount Hope. On the left or the right-hand side, pardon me, more zoomed in sites, you can see the Nova Scotia Hospital just sort of to the northwest of the sites. The Woodside Ferry Terminal is just on the lower left-hand side of the image there. There's also the Dartmouth Harbor Walk is just off of the ferry terminal parking lot. So you can see the parking lot is kind of taking up most of the image on the right-hand side. And just beside the Woodside Ferry Terminal, there is another ferry walk where pedestrians, bikes, etc. can walk from the Woodside Ferry Terminal all the way over to the Albany Ferry Terminal. And in between, you'd also have the NSCC Ivany campus. For a little bit of site context, we're looking currently at 348 Pleasant Street, standing on the other side of the street on Pleasant Street to get a good look at the existing building that's on site currently. Looking both northbound and southbound, I've highlighted the property with the yellow stars. You have a better understanding of what we're looking at. So as you can see, it is a bit of a wider street with mostly residential properties on both sides. But I have also highlighted on the left-hand side, there is also what's known as Simpson's Landing, which is sort of a campus-style facility, which is a part of the Nova Scotia Hospital complex, providing a range of mental health services through the Nova Scotia Health Authority. The right-hand side image would be a look at what is directly across from 348 Pleasant Street, and that's I just highlighted the two churches as sort of the outlier of what isn't residential otherwise on the road. But you can see there's sort of quite a variety of uses along the area itself. So just for, oh, sorry, I went too far. Just for a little bit of the general overview that we always provide for community council, there are three different levels of the planning policy overview that we work through. So at the regional plan and the subdivision bylaw level, that's kind of your highest level, looking at how we would plan out the entire region and municipality as a whole, talking about where investment for transit, pipes, sewers, etc. would go. At the community plan level, that's kind of where we find ourselves here today, as well as the lower level. It's outlining where and how, which types of development may occur specific to one community plan. So we're in the regional center community plan area here tonight. And some uses may only be allowed after community consultation and council approval, which is currently why I am here today chatting with everyone. And lastly, we get kind of down to the lowest level of planning policy, which is the land use bylaw, a little bit more of the boots on the ground, which would be sort of your as of right, where things can go and how they can be built based on the zoning that's found in our land use bylaws. And just as a quick understanding of the path that's led us here tonight, with the rezoning, the application comes through, has a thorough review by staff. Public engagement occurs, which I'll chat about a little bit later on in my presentation. Staff create a report that is then presented to Community Council for a first reading. I'll remind everyone that our first reading was on January 26th of 2026. And that finds us here 1 month later for the public hearing. Public hearing has to be held before any decision can be made. And after that, whatever decision Community Council makes here tonight, there is still a 14-day appeal period for the decision. So a quick overview of some of the major components of the site itself. It is serviced by sewer and municipal water. The zoning on site today is INS, so institutional. That is the current zone that we find ourselves in on the lands. The designation that permits that zone is the institutional employment designation. The existing use on the site, as the images showed a little earlier, it's a residential facility. Both housing and office space are housed in that building currently. And the enabling policies that allow for the rezoning request here this evening are policy IM6D and IM7 of the Regional Centre Municipal Planning Strategy. So to drill down a little bit into what policy IM6D allows or enables, Policies enabling yourselves, council, today to consider rezoning lands that are zoned INS specifically to any zone enabled in an abutting designation in conjunction with policy IM7. So it is worth pointing out that we are only here because the INS, this is a lot that is zoned INS and it is abutting the corridor designation. The corridor zone is what is being requested as the rezoning. So that designation that abuts this land does enable the corridor zone. So when considering policy IM6D and IM7, I've kind of put them together because the entirety of IM6D is contained in that blue box there. Council must consider the following when rendering their decision on a rezoning request. So at a high level, I just tried to highlight mitigation of conflicts regarding uses and built form with the surrounding area, proximity to community facilities, transportation options, and traffic impacts. And I've tried to break out a few of the what I think are maybe the more pertinent points that have been reviewed by staff to date. So built form and impacts to the surrounding area. I've highlighted that these would be as per the corridor zoning requirements. The reason for trying to point that out is that because what is, and we'll chat about this in a moment, what is being proposed as the future 7-story building, there isn't very much for us to review right now because we aren't here today to enable the building itself. We're here to decide whether or not the zone should be changed. I'm just highlighting that the built form and for any conflicts in the surrounding area, the underlying zone, the corridor zone, has land use bylaw requirements that would manage what is permitted as built form. And the same would apply for separation distances between any proposed building on this lot and the neighboring buildings to the side or behind. From a servicing perspective, as mentioned previously, this does have sewer and water with Halifax Water. Access to public transit and transportation infrastructure as a whole, I thought that one was pretty important to highlight. This site does find itself along Pleasant Street, which does have a bus that runs along it. That would be bus route number 6. I think it's broken into 6A, B, C, and D. There is also the ability to walk from this property to the Woodside Ferry Terminal. There is proximity to Highway 111. Certainly, we're not encouraging anyone to walk along Highway 111, but I did want to try and highlight that there's both walking, biking, cars. There's multiple different transportation options from this site itself. There's also proximity to the Shearwater Flyer Trail for anyone who wanted to get a little bit of exercise, walking, biking, etc. And as I mentioned previously as well, there's also the Dartmouth Waterfront Walk, which is that footpath that connects all the way to the Alderney Landing and Alderney Ferry Terminal. So to get into a bit more specifics of what is being proposed here this evening, as I said before, the proposal, if this were to be rezoned corridor or COR, would be currently the proposal is a 7-story or 20-meter multi-unit residential building. The applicant has stated that it would be currently a 50-unit multi-residential building. It's important to note the rezoning does not approve the multi-unit building. So all we're talking about is a change of zone from INS to COR. And if rezoned, the lot could be used for any of the uses permitted within the core zone, the corridor zone, subject to the requirements listed in the land use bylaw. And the staff report does list in one of the attachments all of the uses that are permitted in the corridor zone to try to give council a bit of an understanding of what is possible were this to not be what is moved forward if this site was rezoned. But the applicant has provided essentially images to show sort of the maximums of what the land use bylaw would permit. So we're showing the height at 20 meters on the lower image, as well as the rear and front setbacks and the step back for the street wall itself. So I've tried to give a little bit of context for kind of the back and forth of the INS zone and designation that we have currently versus what is being proposed, the corridor zone, the corridor designation. The INS or institutional zone is trying to enable large scale institutions, so hospitals, Department of National Defense, lands, religious institutions, libraries. You kind of get the sense of anything institutional is really what this zone and area is trying to promote. The corridor zone is looking more so at trying to enable the mid-rise density to support transit use. So mid-rise is generally looking at somewhere between 4 to 7 stories. Looking at maintaining the integrity of adjacent low-rise residential areas while still promoting a little bit more density along these corridor areas. Integrating new development within the existing character of each corridor. And it is important to note that Pleasant Street has been identified as a corridor street, and that would be from Tupper Street all the way to Atlantic Street. So from that stretch in the MPS, that has been identified as a corridor. And as such, you'll note, I'll see in one of the slides to come, there is quite a lot of corridor zoning already in this area. But this site does find itself contained within the boundaries of Tupper Street and Atlantic Street. And just to highlight some of the corridor zone bylaw requirements that I thought might be of interest for council, the maximum height is 20 meters. I will note, and the staff report does say this as well, the corridor zone currently allows up to 7 stories. This site, which is currently zoned INS, is showing at a 20-meter height maximum. The difference being 7 stories is give or take 23 meters. The change or the reason for this difference is back in 2024 when the Housing Accelerator Fund amendments came through. One of the amendments that was done was to change measurements of height from meters to stories to give a little bit more flexibility to developers when it came to building some of their buildings with different materials, specifically wood and timber. So all of the corridor zone already has a 7-story height maximum. This site, because it's zoned INS, kept its 20-meter maximum, and there is no request to change that through this application. If this were to be rezoned corridor, we would not be changing it to a 7-story maximum. It remains a 20-meter maximum. That would have to be an entirely different planning application request. But it is worth noting that it would be holding its 20-meter height maximum. The minimum setbacks for the front of the building would be 2.5 meters. The side would be 0-meter setbacks. The rear would be a 3-meter setback. And the maximum street wall height is 3 stories. So you could not make anything more than a 3-story street wall, and it would have to have a minimum of a 2-meter step back at that transition from the 3rd to 4th floor. As I mentioned as well, I've tried to highlight, again, our site is got the yellow star in the center of the screen. I've tried to highlight where the corridor zone is already present. Every red dot represents a individual lot that is already zoned corridor. As you can see, there is a little bit more institutional in the area as well, but for the most part, right around this site, it is already zoned corridor. From a public engagement feedback perspective, the level of engagement completed for this application was consultation through a mail out, notification, signage on site, and a project website. We mailed out 34 notifications to the surrounding community. There were no emails or calls received from the public throughout this entire process, both when the open public engagement was going on with the mail out, as well as we always encourage anyone from the public can reach out at any point they'd like to. The planner on file, myself, but there were no calls or emails from members of the public. The webpage views at the time of creating this was up to 52 views from individuals on our website. As I stated before, there was no feedback from the public from the time of initial engagement mail out, which was November of 2025 until now. And so generally this would be a time when we would talk about the changes that were made or the sort of the alterations that were made based on public feedback. But given that there was none received by staff, there were no changes based on what was and so with that, the staff recommendation that is found in the staff report is in front of you all. I won't read it out word for word, but effectively staff are here today to support the approval of the amendments to change the zoning.
Okay, thank you very much, Matthew. Are there any questions of clarification? Councillor White.
I was just wondering, next door looks like quite a small building, or what's next door, and are they aware about this? No. Yeah,
So to the, I guess, so towards Mayfield Drive.
towards Atlantic or Mayfield. Yes, towards Mayfield, yep.
Yeah, so that would be another residential building. We'll see if my photos.
Yeah.
So you can see just to the left-hand side, it's another single unit dwelling as far as I'm aware. It is zoned corridor as well, but it is currently sort of in the same vein. It would be, I would argue, less density than 348 has, but I presume they are probably aware insofar as the mail out came to them and that you can see the sign on site. So I'm
Yeah,
presuming
you
that.
can't miss that, okay.
Yeah, we do try to make the sign as large as possible for that reason.
Yeah, and I just noticed that the side setback is 0, so, I mean, what would that mean?
Well, we would have to look at, I think the applicant's given a pretty good indication here of, you can see the blue going all the way to the heavy black line. So I don't know what the setback or the separation would be from the property line to the existing building, but it's, I wouldn't speculate on that, but I guess you can see it's a slightly tighter, but in the corridor zone, that is an intentional zoning requirement. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. This might be out of turn, but you know, with the corridor zone, if I understand things correctly, because I've run into this once in my own district over on Prince Albert Road behind the Braemar Superstore. If you've got low density residential zone corridor, there's no setback, which sometimes runs into challenges with people who don't want the change that the corridor zone envisions in their neighborhood, right? Which I think is maybe what Councillor White was getting at, but maybe not. So like if your corridor zone is next to an established residential, there's a setback requirement. But if your established residential house has been upzoned to corridor, there's no setback requirement. Then there's a few odd spots like this around.
Correct. Through the chair to the councillor. That would be correct. I guess as I've tried to highlight, wrong way. You are kind of highlighting exactly what is kind of already occurring, which is these areas were presumably upzoned through the creation of center plan. So the existing housing that we see is predominantly lower density residential as existing on the sites. But they have been zoned corridor since, I'm going to guess this is package B. It maybe was package A. So as such, it is possible that those types of conflicts might come up. I guess that would have been something that hopefully was discussed throughout the deliberations for the adoption of center plan itself.
Seeing no one else, I'd like to ask a few questions myself. Make a comment. No wonder that took 9 years to get here. that center plan. Okay, so, and you may have already said this, but I just need clarification. What is the requirement for parking here?
Through you, Chair, there would be no requirement for parking, both because the corridor zone currently does not require it, and through the provincial order that's now policy through the regional plan, there is no ability for HRM to require minimum or maximum parking requirements. So as it stands right now, there are no parking requirements that we can ask for. Certainly, an applicant can absolutely put parking in if they so choose. There would be nothing stopping us from seeing parking and saying, no, you can't do that. It's a matter of us not being able to require them to have a minimum or a maximum.
And currently that parcel is zoned institutional, but it doesn't look like there's institutional on it. That looks like a single, either residential or maybe it's multi within it, but what's parking for it now?
I would have to double check that. I suppose because it's an existing property, probably the best way to look at it would be what they have is what would be, I guess
What
to
we
put it
see
this way,
there?
if they had less parking than is required, it's an existing use. So we wouldn't be going to require them to have more parking on site as a result. But off the top of my head, unfortunately, I'm not sure what the institutional zone parking requirements are. I guess, again, we find ourselves in a reality where there are no more parking requirements across the board.
Mm. So with that kind of density, no parking is required. Is there a capacity for property owners who manage a density building like that to allow, are they allowed to say you are not allowed to have a vehicle?
Through you, Chair. I am not sure of the answer of that. I suppose once you are operating a private property and a building that is, that you're managing, I suppose you could put that into your own rules for a multi-unit building. The legalities of that, unfortunately, I'm not sure of. I suppose the best I could say is HRM would not be in a position to tell people whether
No,
they can or
okay.
can't have a car.
Okay, and within that type of building, is there any provision for it to be within an affordable housing scope?
Through you, Chair. The fast answer would be no. From the perspective of how HRM could control that, we would need to be entering into some form of affordable housing agreement with any particular applicant. So that is currently not what is on the table. But again, tonight is only about the decision to rezone, not the building itself.
Yeah.
But HRM generally does not have the authority to regulate what rent is charged on a private property unless we have some form of agreement where HRM is an owner or some form of party to a particular agreement. So rent is something that is entirely charged by the private property owner and something that HRM doesn't have authority over.
Okay, thank you. Some of these questions are related to, this is the first time I've been involved with the center plan, and there's a lot going on here.
I guess actually if I could elaborate, because I'm just remembering, I don't know what the total size of the building would end up being, but we do have bonus density that kicks in if your building is above 2,000 square meters. There's a calculation that kicks in for every square meter above 2,000 that you have to pay into bonus density. Essentially, it's sort of you're paying into a pot that HRM collects and then redistributes at a later date towards a certain list of things that are public benefit criteria. So from that perspective, there is the ability for one of them is affordable housing as a line item. So I guess in a roundabout way, it is potentially possible, but again, the building has to be over 2,000 square meters, and then it's about the applicant and HRM deciding on how that public benefit money would be distributed or used.
Okay, thank you.
Just real quick.
Councillor Mancini?
Great job, Matthew, as always. But this is a private seniors home now, is that correct?
Through you, Chair, to the councillor, I'm not sure of the exact usage itself, other than understanding that it's a residence and an office. I would probably direct that question to the applicant. I think they'll have a better understanding of that.
And I'm just wondering if it is what's happening to those residents at home. That's the case. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Cleary?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just on that, Matthew, so the interesting thing is if you rezone it from institutional to corridor, it then becomes applicable in terms of the density bonus over 2,000 square meters and then rises above that. Do you remember what the proportion is? I think it's 60 or 65% of the density bonus has to go to affordable housing.
Through the chair to the councillor, I believe 60 is the first part. Yeah,
Yeah.
where there's no negotiating whatever the density bonusing comes out to. The first 60% must go to that affordable
Right.
housing pot.
which would either go into our grant fund, or the province gave us the ability, I believe, that we could now do this with private, I'm looking to the solicitor if he remembers, with private property owners, if it's for affordable housing. That was a change they made to the charter to allow us to work with them to get affordable housing in those, although maybe someday, probably not now. We have inclusionary zoning. But yeah, so it could actually go back to, I believe, legally to the property owner if they wanted to put affordable housing in the property.
Through the chair to the councillor, I believe you are correct, but same as you, there's been a lot of there's been a lot coming from the province, so it's been a little difficult to keep track of all the different changes.
You're telling me.
Respectfully. So unfortunately, I don't know the exact answer to that, but I am remembering loosely that the province did provide a little bit more flexibility generally for how our bonus density can be used. The specifics I'd have to get back to you on, unfortunately.
No, it's okay. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any further questions of clarification. And now we'll go to the speakers list, although I believe we may have this. Oh, yeah, sorry, the applicant. Yes, presentation with the applicant. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna, so we have do we have to have a vote for that one? No. Okay, the public hearing is now open and we'll have a presentation from the applicant.
Yeah, cool, great.
And this is Chris from ZAP Consulting.
Yes, hi again. Chris Marquides with ZAP Consulting, here on behalf of the property owner. So I want to thanks to Matt for giving a good kind of overview of the site context and policy overview. And I'm just going to go over this quickly. So site context. So Matt already identified the property. I heard some questions from Councillor White around the neighboring property to the south. Since this process was started, the owners actually purchased that neighboring property, so they own both those properties. So we're up to that kind of laneway there. So surrounding context, Matt did a great overview of that, but I just wanted to highlight that orange circle is 400-meter radius around the site, so you're in close proximity to bus transit, ferry, the university, the NSCC campus, hospital, and good amenities, as well as some public schools kind of a little bit farther away, and Highway 101 or Highway 111. So the site is just under 9,000, or just above 9,000 square feet. It's currently zoned institutional, and I'll point out that at the time when this property was purchased by this owner, it was a senior's home. They sold to the owner. It's no longer that. Yeah, there's a couple of tenants in there, but that's yeah. But it's not institutional use anymore. So the request is to rezone to corridor use. As from a connectivity context, it's 200 meters from the Woodside Ferry Terminal, 350 meters from the NSCC INB campus, 350 meters to Dartmouth General Hospital. So Matt went through all of this already, so I won't go through it in too much detail. We're asking for a 20-foot height, a 20-meter height precinct here, and that's in line with the existing institutional. And the reason we're not applying for a change in height is we require a plan amendment. So that's a much broader process and not worth the effort at this point. We can get the same thing in 20 meters. 3-story street wall, total gross floor area of 56,000 square feet. And it's plus or minus 50 units. That's based on the gross floor area that was the calculation. The net 85% leasable. So it's context sensitive mid-rise form. Like I said, that property that's kind of to the south there would likely be included as part of the overall development. And then there's that laneway at Mayfield Drive that's abutting that. So there's a bit of separation from the next property over. So we did a servicing schematic as part of this, so that there is sufficient capacity in the water and sanitary system, as well as there would be a new storm lateral put in place that doesn't exist right now. Right now, it's on the site. It's connected storm and sanitary, and that would be split to separate storm and sanitary in Pleasant Street.
From a traffic impact perspective, it generates negligible traffic on Pleasant Street. That's a quote from the traffic impact statement, 37 a.m. peak trips and 45 p.m. peak trips. It also meets all site stopping distance requirements from the closest intersection. And Matt kind of touched on the planning policy. So policy IM6D enables site-specific land use bylaw amendments for institutional land zones to the corresponding abutting designation. In this case, it's corridor zone. That carries out that intent of that planning strategy. So just to summarize, it's providing more housing in a place that desperately needs it. It's close to transit. It's close to site amenities. It's sustainable growth infill on an already disturbed site. Yeah, and that's all I have for you today. Any questions? Quick presentation.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Cleary.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mercedes. Since you brought it up, your client bought the other property. So is the intention to develop both at the same time?
I suspect so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor White.
I was just wondering if you could say again what you said about the sewer and the drain. Yeah.
That there is sufficient capacity.
Okay. I thought I heard something about separating them on.
Oh, so right now on the site, as most older properties in Dartmouth have combined sanitary and sewer laterals. So your stormwater would flow, well, older properties were grandfathered in there, had the stormwater flow into the sanitary system. So this would be separated out as part of this new development.
Oh, when they do the development,
Yeah.
they'll separate it. Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any more speaker questions? I have one. What is west of that property?
Sorry, I need to go back to
Towards
my
the
map here.
harbor.
Towards the harbor. It is also the corridor zone properties.
But what is it right now? What's there?
I believe it's apartments. It's like a small scale apartment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Okay. We'll go now. The public hearing is open, so we have questions. No further questions. I'm going to open this now to the gallery. Before I do that, we have, is Robin Cross in the room? Or Peter Hill? No, we think they may have signed up on the wrong sheet, so that's fine. All right. Are there any speakers from the gallery? Thank you.
Hi, Ross Cantwell, 11 Pleasant Drive.
Got to have the mic on there, Ross. Should just be a button.
Yeah, I just turn it off so that we don't get the noise.
Okay.
Here we go.
Ross Cantwell, Point Pleasant Drive in Halifax. Fully support rezoning to corridor. Just a couple of comments. I think the corridor zone land use bylaw has to be completely rethought. We are building wedding cakes all throughout the city. The buildings all look the same. They're all being forced to look the same by this, go up 3 floors, step back, whatever, 6 meters, 5 meters. It's usually not even an increment of the structural grid, which causes a lot of cost. And then you go up and then you set a height limit, and then you've got a side yard and a rear yard back, setback. So what does the developer do? They want to create as much volume as possible. So literally they extrude a box up, out as far as possible, all the way in, and take it up right to the limit. And it's forcing all of these buildings to look the same. And a much, much better approach is using floor area ratio. Just assign an FAR to the site, which if the site is 10,000 square feet and you have an FAR of 3, you have 30,000 square feet of Lego blocks you can put on the property. Then you can do things like setback from a corner, because you're not losing density. A developer is never going to set back from a corner, because now you lose every floor above it. But if you have all your pile of Lego blocks, you can set back from the corner. You can take those Lego blocks and put them somewhere else. It gives the architects a lot more option for creativity. It's not great to set other constraints in it, but you can have some, you relax your constraints on other things, but you could actually set back a bit further in some locations. You just can't jam the height limit down too much, because you might get something a little bit higher than 20 meters on the site, but you might get things a lot lower. I think you would see a lot more creativity. Which brings me to my next point. Please hire some architects at City Hall. The planners are great, but they're planners. I have a degree from a planning school. I took 2 courses in design. I can't design a building. I took a course in COBOL programming undergrad. I can't program or write software. We need architects at City Hall. Otherwise, our building is just going to look, everything's going to look the same. And you get an architect who's designed 50, 100 buildings coming in, dealing with a land use bylaw written by someone who, quite frankly, doesn't design buildings. It's a little bit of a mismatch. Anyway, I support this application. I think we need to rethink how we're forcing buildings to look the same. I think we can do better. But this is a great location. It's right next to the ferry, transit oriented. I think it's a good deal.
There's a question, Ross.
And the one other comment about height. I can remember dealing with a 50-foot height limit on Gottingen Street, and we were literally sweating out the inches out, you know, on an arbitrary 50 feet. Would anyone care if it was 50 foot, 51 feet, or 50 point whatever? And wood frame buildings and concrete buildings are different. The other thing about height limits, when we used to regulate by height limits, like 6 floors, 7 floors, you know, go opposite the Neptune Theater on Argyle Street, and you see that mean little hotel they built opposite where the tea room on the ground floor, you walk in, and the ceiling is like this, because they said you can do 7 floors, but there was a view plane over it. So they just smashed all the floors down, right? So I think we need to open up some of the design criteria to get better outcomes.
Thank you. We have a question. Councillor Clary.
Thank you. Appreciate the feedback on this and in general. So on corridor zones, because this one is restricted to 20 meters, the other corridor zones, I'm just sort of looking for a nod, those are now in stories. And so how much...
Same effect, though.
Yeah, how much leeway would you want, though? Because we do FARs on send zones, and so you can go up many, many stories. So would you envision a limit, a maximum 2 extra stories, or how do you keep the Lego blocks? Because the whole idea of corridor is to keep it at a height that is sort of transitionary from low density to higher density. It's not a send. So what would you recommend as like a leeway?
You know, I'm not the expert on that. I hire architects and urban designers to help solve things for me, and I direct them. So I'm sure someone smarter than me can help you with that. But, you know, I mean, maybe you allow up to 26 meters, but, you know, but ultimately you know, something a bit higher, you have to get, you can't use FAR and also clamp down on the height. Otherwise, it's just a bad combination. But what I'm seeing is, you know, on an important street corner where you've got 2 major streets, if you use that corridor zone, they are going to fill it right to the corner and go up all the way to the top. They're not going to set back from the corner and create like a nice little urban space or whatever. It's just, you know, developers, the costs are such that you're not going to leave that density on the table. So you need to find some way, hire some smart designer to come in and work with staff to figure this out, but you need to find some way to encourage that without penalizing the developer.
Thank you. I'm going to just suggest that we try to stay within the scope of what we're here for. It's great offering of information, Ross. It may be worth a letter to the mayor or to council to articulate that, but thank you for coming this evening. Okay, any other speakers from the gallery? Are there any other speakers from the gallery? Third and final call for any speakers from the gallery. Okay, thank you. We now need a motion to close Are we done? No. No, applicant doesn't want to respond to any questions. So thank you. We have to close public hearing and vote on it. Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Clary, seconded by Councillor Austin. And can we have a question? I'll call the question on that. This is to close the public hearing. All in favor? Yeah. Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you. Don't ask if we did it last time. Okay, now, what's the wishes of council? Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Chair. I move that Regional Center Community Council adopt the amendments to Schedule 2 of the Land Use Bylaw for the Regional Center as set out in Attachment A of the staff report dated January 5th, 2026.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Clary. Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Not to belabor this, every property around this is already zoned corridor. This one was zoned institution because it was an institutional use at the time. It is no longer an institutional use. It's next to the Woodside Ferry Terminal. It's on transit. It's by services. This is exactly the sort of space where it makes sense to allow for density. So I think this rezoning makes perfectly good sense, and I'm entirely supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Clary.
I swear I have to disagree with Councillor Austin. This is totally incompatible with it.
Who are you?
I know, it. Totally agree. It's all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? With the indulgence of council, I would like to offer some comments on this one as I'm the councillor for the other side of the street. That's okay? Yeah? Okay. So on this one, yeah, I mean, it does make sense. I think what the councillor has spoken about, which I sort of said the same thing. I do think that a density or an opportunity like this on this site is well positioned for healthcare workers and students and people who don't want cars. I will register though that the parking issue is a worry for me, because right now we have a huge parking issue with down in that area with utilization of the ferry terminal parking, because there's no policing of that space. And we also, and because of the influx of the students, we also have some of the parking for the hospital is now being taken up by people who are going to the ferry or going to school or whatever. So it's almost every day that I, as a counselor, get calls about concerns with the parking down in that area. So that's part of why I spoke about it. Can't fight that. That's not a policy directive here that I can speak to. Not that I'd be interested in speaking against it. I do think it's a great fit. It's a great place for density. And as we've pointed out, there's so many features around it that it just makes sense. The other concern I have, well, actually, no, I don't have it because, well, no, in theory, if there's no cars, I don't have to worry about the contribution to the traffic, which we also have concerns with down in that area. And it's regular almost every day, if not every week, that we get concerns around the volume of traffic and the speed. And we get the same kind of concerns at a lot of streets in the municipality now. But this particular one, we do have an active transportation that wasn't mentioned today, that potential future active transportation corridor that's in the works. We're still, as councillors for the area, we're still waiting for it to come to council, but we're hoping that it gets close. And anytime there's something of that nature, if there's an opportunity to do something to restructure a roadway that makes it safer, or turning lanes and things like that, I'm hopeful that we can settle some of those things. I've just taken the opportunity to speak on that. But overall, I think this is a good one to support, and I will do that. Thank you. Question has been called. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you. Mr. Chair, would you like to take over, or would you like me to finish?
Oh, you go ahead. Take us home. Sign us in.
Take us home. Okay, so we're moving on to correspondence, petitions, and delegations. Madam Clerk, is there anything else that we need to be aware of in correspondence?
Just to confirm that correspondence was received and circulated for item 10.1.1, and no petitions were received by the clerk's office for this
Okay,
meeting.
thank you. Any councillors have any petitions? No, not seeing anything. No presentations being done. I will call 3 times for public presentations, I guess. Is that a requirement? Yeah. Okay. First call for any public presentations to this council. Doesn't have to be related to the public hearing. Second call from the gallery, any public presentations to council? And third and final call for any public presentations to the council. Okay, that's done. Information items brought forward are none, no reports, no motions, no in camera, and no added items. Any notices of motion? No. The date of the next meeting is March 25th, 2006. And would someone like to move adjournment? Moved by Councillor Hinch. Thank you all very much for coming this evening.